well, wait a minute, I can just buy it. And I fast forward in 3 years and I don't have any of the cash flow problems. And it's very, very simple. And just going back to our conversation, all I did was I'm very good at following direction. You tell me to do something and I'll do it. And you told me to do it. And I just kept on following what you told me to do.
You know something, I had someone here in the studio the other week who said exactly the same thing. She said, Jonathan, all I did was do what you told me to do. Nothing more, nothing less. So Dean, you came on Mastermind a couple of years ago, and then we did some one-to-one mentoring and coaching together. And I think it was within about 12 weeks that you'd done your first deal. You got it over the line very, very quickly. So give us a bit of background. Tell us about your business and why you decided to acquire another business.
Yeah, so I'm in the self-storage industry. And like I was saying before, I found your podcast and I literally listened to every single episode, and then I wanted more of it. I was like, what can I do? Right, there's a mastermind. And so I went on the mastermind with yourself, which was absolutely fantastic. My problem is that when I'm in a classroom at school, I was never good at concentrating, and exactly the same happened there. Everybody else is asking questions, talking. I'm like, I don't really know what's going on here. I didn't concentrate. And my mind's going, thinking about other things. And so I thought, do you know what? I'm going to miss out on an opportunity here if I don't, because at the time you didn't do any one-on-ones. And I thought, I'm just going to message him and say, look, if I pay extra, can I have some one-on-ones? Keep me accountable. And you messaged back and said, yeah, we agreed a price. And I think after we had a telephone call for an hour every other week, and I think it was on the third week that I got a deal. Done. I'm in self-storage, by the way. At that point, I think I had 3 or 4 sites, and now we've got 6. Unfortunately, my second acquisition just fell through last week. But yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I hear it time and time again. What people learn on this podcast, and I think I did the same. I kept in my comfort zone and went for a smaller business when I potentially should have gone a bit bigger, but it still worked out fantastically well. But the one-on-one tutoring from yourself, it was, I think, like I said, 6 weeks in, it was done.
Fast. It was really fast. So let's talk about that deal. So first question is, why grow by acquisition? What is the advantage to you as a business owner?
Well, specifically for self-storage, when you open a self-storage, you've got all the rent and the rates to pay, but you've got no customers. So you've got all the expenses, you've got the electric, everything. And it probably takes, depending on where you are, 9 months to 3 years to break even on cash flow. And that's a massive drain. So all of a sudden, when I heard your podcast, I was like, well, wait a minute, I can just buy it. And I fast forward in 3 years and I don't have any of the cash flow problems. And it's very, very simple. And just going back to our conversation, all I did was I'm very good at following direction. You tell me to do something and I'll do it. And you told me to do it. And I just kept on following what you told me to do.
You know something, I had someone here in the studio the other week who said exactly the same thing. She said, Jonathan, all I did was do what you told me to do. Nothing more, nothing less. I just did what you told me to do. And it works. And that's the benefit, though, of having a systemized approach to anything, isn't it? If you know the first step, the second step, the third step, you've got a process in front of you. So the advantage to you then is that you would not have that dip in the cash flow. You wouldn't have all those expenses without customers coming in. You've got a ready-made, an oven-ready business ready to go. So how many self-storage centers are there in the UK then?
Oh God, Derby! There's more self-storage than McDonald's, so I don't know exactly how many there is, but it's a lot. And to give you some context, how good the industry is at the minute, in America, there's 15. Well, depending on which state you're in, there's between 9 square foot and 15 square foot per person in America. In England, we're under 1. And don't get me wrong, we might never get to the American size, but the opportunity for growth for the next 10 years in self-storage is unbelievable. So I think it's 0.88 square foot per capita at the minute, where in America, it's so much more. In Australia, it's so much more as well. So we've got this, I always say you've got 10 years now to really go hard and fast at self-storage and really and then hopefully, exit, or you can either exit or you can stop growing, or you've got options at the minute, because we're underserviced as a nation with self-storage. Although I probably shouldn't be telling the whole nation on the podcast that we're underserviced.
Well, I mean, the thing is, there's a difference between listening to a podcast and actually going out and doing it. And people like yourself, you went out and you did it. And without giving all the secrets away, when we started doing some deal sourcing, I seem to remember that you were inundated. You had a lot of phone calls. In fact, I think you may have had so many contacts from people wanting to sell, but they were on scraps of paper on your desk.
Yeah,
they were
you
on
told me off
Post-it
for that, yeah.
notes. Did I tell you? I tell you after that? Yeah, because it was a little disorganized because it was happening so fast and probably unexpectedly fast as well.
Yeah, well, I thought, there won't be that many people. How do I know this list is correct? I've sent these out. I think it was 1,000 or 2,000 I sent out. And then, I remember I was walking back from a coffee shop because it took the kids to school, went for a coffee. I was walking back and all of a sudden I looked at my mobile phone. I had 5 missed calls on the first day. I was like, what is going on here? So I rang back to the office because you always said, look, be in a good situation, be in a good position.
Yes.
And that is so true as well, because I have tried to talk to people when I'm walking because the phone's ringing and I'm like, I've got to answer it. But yeah, being in that office.
You need to be in the right frame of mind because you need to be in control of the conversation. If you've got someone with a dominant personality on the other end, they could take over the control if you're not quite ready for the call or you're trying to do your shopping at the same time. So you're absolutely right. You sit down in your own environment where you're focused, pad and pen, because you cannot remember the details from that the owner gives you. You think you can until you've had 5 phone calls in one day and then you haven't got a clue who was who.
Yeah, to be honest, I got overwhelmed. One sticks out right away now. There's a place it was up north somewhere, Newcastle, Sunderland area, and I got intimidated by the numbers, which is absolutely ridiculous. It was turning over like £750,000. And as soon as he said that, I got a little bit intimidated. And I remember subconsciously being more confident speaking to the people who was turning over 100,000 or 150,000.
Okay,
and it's I don't know, maybe you don't believe in yourself enough, but it's that one deal, that one site, because he wanted to sell, it was a great area as well, great location. That always sticks out as a massive missed opportunity now. So obviously, and as you said, I was disorganized. I haven't got that person's details to go back to now 3 years later. And I'm like, so I need to send out more letters.
That's
but
frustrating.
That's one thing that I will definitely do now is not be intimidated by the numbers. I mean, we turn over 2.5 million ourselves now. And it's, I don't know why I was, but I certainly was intimidated by it. So I imposter syndrome, I don't know. But
I think that happens to a lot of new business buyers at the start because you think, why would someone sell their business to me? If you've got a business already, you think you can only buy a business smaller than your own. Where I always say, go bigger because you'll just get there faster. And you know something, that those larger businesses are more organized in terms of their finances. So you want accounts, they press the button and they send you accounts. You ask a very small business owner to send you accounts and it's like, I need to go and ask my accountant. What do you mean you need to go and ask your accountant? You need to have your own numbers on your own desk. Yeah. So it's a shame that was a missed opportunity, but they come round again. There's always another deal.
Yeah, 100%. And I learned so much. I'm probably more confident now because I learned so much. And believe it or not, people lie to you. People lie when they're selling a business. They always put the best foot forward. I mean, this one we acquired, there was problems with a fire alarm. We got the landlords have got 400 premises. They came round and they did a check on us and they said, oh, everything's in order. The previous landlord told, oh no, it failed on health and safety. It failed. They didn't have a fire alarm, but it's supposed to. And I didn't even know a fire alarm could cost 10 grand, but it was £8,900 for a fire alarm. I'm like, oh my God. And I know I paid deferred consideration, so I could have took it off him, but I think because he actually, I got the email and he said everything's in order, and it was specifically, he said fire alarm, and he said, yep, absolutely fine. There was no fire alarm. And so, yeah, the lie.
Yeah, and you're right. There would have been a warranty claim for that. I think you probably didn't want the fuss of it.
Yeah.
But maybe you would in the future. If you were in that situation again, would you be a little more tough with the seller?
This is my problem, like I was saying before, but I am not tough. Yeah, I always try to look after the person and think the best of them. And it was so mismanaged for 15 years, and this person has sold out life's work and was not getting very much money. And I was like, this is ridiculous.
Well, but he wasn't getting very much money because the business wasn't worth very much at that point in 100%. Time. And of course, he had the ability after 15 years, he could have built that up into an incredible business, but chose not to. And now you've got that opportunity. So we shouldn't feel too bad.
Yeah, I know. There was some fundamental small errors he did. It's a difference of what we paid for it and a massive, nearly 7-figure exit just for that one site we'll be able to have in 2 years maximum if we chose to sell it. And it's little things that you tweak in self-storage can make a massive difference.
Because I know that from speaking to you before, I know that with self-storage, there are certain metrics, if that's the right word, certain KPIs. And when all of those are aligned, that's when it really produces a lot of profit. And I've got a feeling that business that you bought with me has already become bigger and better since you bought it, by you making those changes to its operating. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so we've more than 14 times profit, which is great.
Okay.
And then we've also trebled the revenue. Again, small little things. He had the corridors too big, so we built internal smaller units. It could be manless. I mean, we didn't make anyone redundant because they was retiring, but they were spending 20 grand a year on staffing, which we didn't need to do, so we can make it manless. Don't get me wrong, there's a capital expense there, but they had a big forecourt which wasn't being utilised at all. So with self-storage, you can put containers in the yard. People rent out containers for, depending on where you are, £250 a month to £120 a month. And there's all these little tweaks that never ever charge insurance, which in self-storage is a fantastic way to grow revenue, because it's like something like 95% profit for us, it's insurance, but it's good for them and it's good for the customer. It's good for the customer and good for us, because you wouldn't drive around with a Ferrari and not insure it on the roads. Sure. So why would you not insure your stuff?
Put your belongings into a unit without insurance.
Yeah, so we quickly introduced insurance, told all the customers why, we made it manless, we offered more self-storage. And then another thing that people don't do, but don't increase the prices. You had somebody in there 15 years and still was paying the rates from 15 years ago. And like, things go up all the time. So
Sure.
we're very, very good with our revenue management. And because we're paying more for staffing costs, we're paying more for electric, so why wouldn't we pass that on to the customers as well? So we have a really good price increase structure that we roll out. And so we just did some little three or four different things we did. And it made a massive difference. 17
times the profit is quite
quite
phenomenal.
Yeah, I was talking to my dad about this the other day. So he said he was making 10 grand a year when we bought it, and I know the shop fit was even more than the purchase price. If we was going to start from scratch, the metal alone would cost more. So it didn't really matter to me what he was making, because I knew I could make more. Turns out he wasn't making 10 grand a year. He was breaking even at best and maybe losing £5,000 to £10,000 realistically. And the idea is that we want to, we're now around about £145,000 a year profit on this site, which is great, but we still haven't pulled all the levers yet. There's still more containers we can put in. There's still internal rooms that we can fit out as well. So we're going to get this site to around about £200,000 profit. And it's only going to take 300,000, the revenue, 310,000, somewhere around there. That's where it's going to cap out at. And so then we've got a choice there. Do we sell it for 4 to 5 times multiple? Because it's in Wales. It's 4 hours away from me, so it's miles away. So, or do we get more around that area and have a cluster, or do we sell it for 4 or 5 times multiple, which is 800 to £1 million, or do we keep it in the portfolio to sell? When we all sell eventually, which will be
at a higher multiple, because it will be a larger group.
8 to 12, yeah. So the idea is, we've got 6 now. We've got 1 in the pipeline. That's 7, and by the end of next year, we want to have 15, and then we want to continue to grow. And then I'm 43 now, so maybe when I'm 50 or something like that, whatever age, maybe look at potentially selling for 8. If I'm buying something at 3 to 5 times multiple and sell it for 8 to 12, but then adding value along the way as well, it seems like
and making profit along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that site, it never. I mean, I can tell you all the numbers. It never ever, apart from that initial cost, it never cost me anything in cash flow. Including the deferred consideration, it was cash flow positive right from the start. It was
So you're happy with it?
Oh yeah, I couldn't be happy. Yeah, sometimes some sites that don't do well and some sites do. I mean, we're 94% full at that site.
Okay,
so we're just increasing.
That's good.
So we're increasing everybody's prices now again, because it's supply and demand.
Because the demand is there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
supply and demand.
So if you lose a few people, they'll always be replaced.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so then we're going to take more money. Price per square foot is going to go up. So yeah, it's been a fantastic acquisition. Yeah, it's been brilliant.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good. No, my pleasure. Now, you said earlier on that your second one fell through. So let's talk about that. So I think it's good always to have a balance, because it's very easy on this podcast just to talk about successes and how wonderful everything is. But I think it's always nice to hear when things don't always go well. Sometimes I ask an audience, you prefer to hear people's mistakes, and you prefer to hear the things that go wrong, and they go, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
They do. And it's like, oh, you want us to live through, you want me to relive the mistakes.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to relive this mistake if that's what it is. But you put a lot of effort everyone puts a lot of effort into an acquisition. You put effort into this acquisition, but it didn't happen, which is frustrating. So tell us why it didn't happen.
Yeah, I think what you say is deal flow is key, because you're not emotionally connected to it too much. Because we've got another site opening from fresh. It's not an acquisition, but I've got deal flow, if you like. I've got somewhere else to concentrate via expansion. But yeah, this site, to be honest, here's the numbers. It was up for 1.2 million 2 years ago, and it didn't sell. And it's probably the worst, most rundown self-storage that you've ever seen. But that's opportunity. It don't particularly scare me away. And then it went for £800,000. That was the price with the brokers. Again, nobody's really interested.
So this was with a business broker at 800,000. Okay.
Yeah. And the business broker actually asked me, because I've got a public platform in self-storage. They asked me to advertise it on the podcast and the newsletter, because they've already asked me if I was interested. And I said, no, not at that price. Because obviously in self-storage, there's tiers. So Big Yellow and Safe Store, as soon as it goes to brokers, don't even hit the market if it's a good site, because them two will fight it out. And then when it gets a little old me, nobody wants it. Big Yellow don't want it. None of the big boys want it. So therefore, as soon as a broker's got it, especially in most industries, but especially self-storage, if nobody's buying it, then you know it's a bit of a pig. And this site, it was messy. And then somebody I know works with him, and he said, look, he's got personal reasons why he wants to sell. He's a very, very motivated seller. And then so we met, we spoke. He actually came out to meet me on holiday. That's how desperate he was to sell. And it was up for...
So you were on holiday and he came
I was in Wales, at the time. On a caravan
right. He didn't...
So he came to see me, and I was like, wow, this guy really wants to sell. And I said, look, I won't mess you around. You tell me what you want, because it's up for sale at 800. Obviously, it's not worth it. And I outlined the reasons why it wasn't worth it. I was honest.
Well, it hadn't sold for a start.
The market is a market.
That's evidence enough.
Yeah, the market is a market is a market. The market will always tell you, and the market's telling you it's too expensive, but he didn't believe it. And so I literally spent probably a couple of hours just mapping out why I could see a problem where other people see looking at this site. And I said, look, you tell me your lowest price. I won't mess you around. I'll just say yes or no. And he came back and said, Dean, I need 550. And I was like, can't do 550. It was making 100,000, but there was problems. He has other businesses as well, very successful. He was putting a Lamborghini through the figures, and to try and find out what was associated with the business and what
the true profitability is.
And then the rent was going up 50 grand, which nobody told us. The brokers didn't tell us. He didn't tell us.
So he was leasing the building.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And there was a new lease on the table for, but it was going up 50,000, and I was like, blimey, that's a hell of a chufty one. So we need to take it. We need to allow for that. But then he said, look, we get the electric rates of this now, and there was this, and so we're saving 8,000. I'm like, oh, right, this is getting confusing here. And so I said, look, it's not worth 550. If you want me to help you to sell it, I'll try to put it out there for that price. But I still have a caveat. I don't think it's worth it. And he goes, well, what would you offer? And I already knew what I was thinking. And so I said 400. And he said, let me think about it. He came back a couple of days later and he said, yes. And in my mind, I was like, Claire, my wife, I was like, this is the one, this is fantastic. Because he wouldn't do deferred consideration, but because I've got a good relationship with an asset finance company, there's assets in the company with steel, with the mezzanine flooring, etc. So we could get finance through that. So that was okay. So he wanted it all day one.
So just to make sure that everyone watching this has understood, it was listed with the broker for 800.
1.2 first of all, then 800.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
And then you agreed 400.
Yeah,
so what was his motivation for selling?
There was an illness in his family.
Okay.
And he said, I can't focus, because he wasn't running the business. It was left to somebody, the manager, to run it. For 18 years, this business was going, and he didn't know anything about self-storage at all. Didn't want to. He was making 100 grand a year. He was happy with it. He was running personal things through it. So he was okay with the business just doing that. And it had been uncared for 18 years, as in, he opened self-storage. Most people can make money at the minute with self-storage. And so they opened and they got the business. He saw £100,000 coming in a year, and he was happy about that. So that's
Okay.
And then he wanted rid of it because of the personal circumstances.
Okay. So you shook hands on 400.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
Then I'm a person who always looks at everything positively. So every little problem, I'm like, yeah, but it's all right. Well, we can figure that out. The debt, I got told, was 3%. It turned out to be over 10% of revenue.
So this is outstanding rental from unit. What's the terminology? How would you describe this?
Yeah, so people have defaulted on their payments for the units.
Defaulted on their payments.
Yeah, and so
3% would be acceptable.
3% is, well, in America, that's because I'm in a mastermind in America for self-storage, because they're always 10 years in front of us. They say 3% is acceptable, but as my business, we're under 1% all the time.
Okay.
Because as long as you're on, he who shouts loudest gets paid first. And if you bug them enough, you will get paid. And then we have an alternative contact we get in touch with. So it might be your mum, it might be your sister, and then it's almost like, look, if you don't pay us, we're going to have to get in contact with your alternative contact, and nobody wants that. And so we're pretty good on that. But 3% is normally okay-ish. And so I thought I can work with that. And then I went down to the site and I spoke to the girl because he said it was 3%. And like I say, it was over. It was over 10%, and it was like 30-something thousand pound that was outstanding.
Right.
But that's not that. Yes, that's bad, but we can clear that up because we've got a better system than that.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, what happens a lot of the time when the debt gets to that much, people just will leave the stuff, will never contact you again. So you've got to sort out all that mess. And so you've got maybe 100 units with crap in it that you've got to get rid of. And then it takes time, it takes money. And then so that's one problem.
You could have your own version of that TV show, Storage Hunters.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Is that like your favourite show?
Oh, I used to absolutely love it. Yeah, absolutely. And then there was a bulk area which we could fit out for extra. There was an added value. There's a bulk area, but all of a sudden, because they didn't know who was coming down this one day, it was like a dumping ground. And I said to the girl, do you know all the stuff, whose stuff it is in here? She goes, well, most of it, not very confidently. So if someone's saying like 60%, 70%, you know definitely it's not. And I know from personal experience, when I've made mistakes at work, when it was just me running it, I think you said before, you're not a very good manager of a business. I'm shocking, John. Absolutely shocking. I'll take the easy road all the time. And before I got staff to cover my weaknesses, I had units where I didn't know who it belonged to, why I want the pay, and it was exactly the same there. And I know from personal experience how much time and effort that was going to take. And I took another consultant down there with me as well, just to make sure that, because I'm very, oh yeah, that's brilliant. Oh, okay, don't worry about that. And the consultant just said, Dean, yes, it's going to make money, but it's going to cost you a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it's the opportunity cost. So it is your time, because I'm very much not involved in a day-to-day running of the business, but it was such a big job, it might have dragged me back in, and I want to protect my time. And so, yeah, it was, and honestly, because he's such a nice guy, is this guy really nice, really got on well with him. My family met him, and I knew on the Friday that I wasn't going to do it, and I didn't tell him until the Monday. All weekend, I couldn't think about anything else.
So actually you pulled out of it because
I pulled out of it, yeah.
Your diligence didn't measure up. You weren't going to get what you thought you were going to get.
Yeah, and I remember messaging you on LinkedIn saying, Jonathan, it's amazing. I'm going to get this deal. Because I think in time I could have turned it round to making £400,000 a year of that size building. And therefore I was like to you, Jonathan, 10 times multiples, £4 million. I'll put it for 400,000. And it wasn't, because we sell storage as well, because of the amount of work that needs to bring it up to my level, because our sites are all nice. We spent a lot of money on building them, and so to get to that level, it was going to cost hundreds of thousands of pounds as well.
Fair enough. So it's not just a time factor; there is a hard cost to it as well.
Yeah, and I don't want to come across here and say self-storage is amazing, because it's a fantastic business, but it's very capital intensive. Like I was saying to you, cash flow is always if you're expanding, cash flow is always a problem. Whereas if I stood still, then I'd be fine. At the minute, we pay we pay nearly £70,000 a month just in debt repayments. So it's a big noose around my neck is 70 grand a month. And with that as well, and then the capital repayments and then the CapEx cost as well, I just thought,
do you need this extra hassle?
Yeah, I could probably invest it somewhere else. And it wasn't, like I say, it wasn't me who pulled myself up on it. It was my consultant who just said, not so sure about this, Dean, and just asked me questions. And then all of a sudden, when him
but
asking
is that
me
not the
questions,
advantage, though, of having someone as a sounding board?
Oh, 100%.
And not having to make every decision by yourself?
Yeah, 100%.
Which is what I say to people in Mastermind. You want to decide whether it's a good deal or a bad deal, ask me.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what I think, and then you've got a second opinion, and you can still make up your own mind because it's your decision, your business, but at least you've heard what someone else thinks, and maybe that will stop you from going down the road that you shouldn't go down.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% think it's the biggest cheat in life is finding somebody who's been there and done it, even just a couple of runs on the ladder. It doesn't matter because they've made the mistake. Why would you want to spend time, effort, money on making mistakes when you can just speak to somebody and that person would say, no, do you know what, you do it like this? I mean, the amount of time and effort that I've saved just talking to you, I think we only had like 6 sessions because I paid for a year, but 7 sessions. I got what I needed at a point.
Yes.
It's like, right, Jonathan, I'm done. I'm all right, thank you. And
yes.
I don't understand why more people don't do it. My friends in a small market town in Beverley, they think I'm crazy because last year I spent nearly £100,000 on personal development and stuff and masterminds and going to America and everything. But then I look around and thinking, well, yeah, but wait a second. You've got a limiting mindset, a limiting belief, and you think you've got to do it all yourself. And one of my friends take and they spend £50,000 on one mastermind, and he's like, and he just constantly takes the Michael out of me and my business. But then you take a step back and you look 5 years ago where his business is exactly the same as it is now. And you think if you had the mindset to realize that you could just pay a little bit of money to get some sort of advice and it would change your perspective on life and everything and your business as well, and it would take off. And they're working every single day 9 to 5 and stuff. I get to take the kids to school and don't get me wrong, you're always bad days and stuff, but you can accelerate your growth so much I know it fits perfectly for your podcast and stuff, but it really is true.
I'm the same. I've always believed in investing in yourself because the difference between the business that does well and the business that never goes anywhere is usually down to the owner. And it's the way the owner thinks about things and the attitude of the owner. And if you're around the right people with the right quality of knowledge and information and the right attitude in the room, then you're going to go a lot further than the person who doesn't have any knowledge and hangs out with negative people.
Yeah, 100%. And your business can only grow as fast as you're growing as well. So that's why I spend most of my time, everybody in Beverley knows me as this guy who just walks around with headphones on all the time because all I'm doing is listening to podcasts and listening to anything I can and educate myself because I want to be a better business owner so my business can grow. And if I can outsource any task, I don't mind paying for it. Gardener, cleaner, whatever it is, just if it's under my hourly rate, what I work out, then I feel like that I should try to get that off my plate so I can focus on what I want to focus on to grow the business.
So let's talk about that for a moment, because there'll be some people listening and watching this who say, well, it's all very well for you to say that, but I can't afford a gardener. I can't afford a cleaner. I've got to do my own bookkeeping. I've got to, do my own marketing because I can't afford to pay other people to do that. What would you say to those people?
Yeah, I think it's step by step. You can't. If you can't afford it, you can't do it. But it's step by step. We started with one self-storage facility, and I was the cleaner. I was the plumber. Blocked toilets. I put my hands down there. I was a person answering the phone. I was a person doing call outs on an evening. And you've just got to slowly but surely grow. And I say it to my sisters as well, because they was going up in the self-storage and they see me not really as in their ways, not really doing a lot. And I said, yeah, but in the first few years, I was doing absolutely everything.
Well, when you say not doing a lot, you've got a business that has 2.5 million of annual revenue. So you're doing something right.
Yeah. Not the day-to-day, but yeah. And it's the managing of other people and stuff. That's as we grow, I've learned that the managing of other people is harder. And I've learned I'm not very good at that either. So I need to outsource that. But yeah, you've got to take it step by step. And when you can afford, there's always a reason not to do something, because people always find a reason not to do it, but there's always a reason to do something as well. But you've just got to be open to that as well.
I tell you what, you do have. You've got vision. You've got vision of where you want the business to be, and you're like the conductor of the orchestra. You're getting everyone together to make your vision a reality. That's what you're doing. And that in itself is a skill set. You don't have to be the person who's good at the bookkeeping, good at the marketing. You can be the person who just gets all those people together and makes it happen.
Well, yeah, I know exactly where I want to go. So I want to get £60 million turnover in 7 years. But it's like a hockey stick, because it took us so long to get £1 million turnover.
Yes.
And then 1 million to 2 has been really quick. And then 2 to 3 will happen next year as well, because all the sites are growing if we do another acquisition.
Which will then free up more cash to do more deals.
Yeah, sorry, when I say £60 million in turnover, sorry, I meant a £60 million exit. That's what I want. So I need to get to £10 million revenue. So not unsurmountable.
Right. So if you're at 2.5 to 3 now,
yeah.
It's just 3x, isn't it?
Yeah, these sites are going to be mature. It's going to be 3, because they're always the revenue's always growing when they're new, and a lot of them are new. So this will easily get to 3.3 million in revenue. So I've only got to get 6.7 to get to that £10 million. Normally, self storages work to an EBITDA to revenue of 64%, 63%. But let's say I do 50%. So if I get £10 million, that's £5 million profit. Or £6 million profit, £5 or £6 million profit, and then 10 times multiple is 50 to 60 million pound exit, and then obviously tax. And so I really want to walk away with around about. I sound stupid saying it because out loud, but yeah, I'm looking to exit for around about 50 million, and then with tax and everything, I want to put some money away and make sure that ultimately I get to live life on my terms. I get almost a little bit of freedom, and I don't have to worry about the money, because I can invest that money into something else, and then the interest will pay me that. So yeah, I've got it on my wall at home exactly where I need to be.
And I think it's someone who's got great clarity about their goals and where they're heading is the person who's going to get there. The only people who would take issue with what you've just said are the people who will never be able to do it.
Yeah, I always feel stupid saying that. Halfway through that little thingy, then I was like, oh no, this is in front of thousands of people. People are going to think you're all right, because I'm well aware that
you're a man on a mission. You've got a goal. You know your numbers. You know what you need to do. It sounds like we need to have some more mentoring sessions to get a few more acquisitions in to get you up to the 10, because you'll just do bigger and bigger deals, and it might only be half a dozen deals to get you to where you need to go, and you can do half a dozen deals in 18 months.
Yeah, I'm well aware when you're talking, because my wife always goes mad at me, because she goes, not everyone's interested in business and money when we go out and stuff. So I've got to be careful. All of a sudden you put a penny in me, Jonathan, and off I go, I tell everybody what my goals are and everything.
Well, I tell you what we'll do. Let's do a part 2 to this podcast, because I think there's so much more that we can talk about. We can talk about what happens after you've bought a business, some of the things you've learned. We can talk about business in general, not just about acquisitions. I think that would make a really interesting part 2. But before we close off this episode, someone who's thinking about working with me, with Mastermind, what would you say to that person? They're sitting on the fence. We have thousands of listeners to the podcast, thousands of viewers who nearly do something. And this is going out sort of October, November 24, and we've just launched Mastermind 2025. So what would you say to those people?
Yeah, I always think the people who were successful in life are the action takers. And I whether it's I just don't ever want to stand still. So I want to take action, and I really believe that my business. If I wouldn't have emailed you that, because it might might not be right for some people. It might be right for others. But the fact that Mastermind for me, it opened my eyes listening to other people and being around people who had done like a few deals. I was talking to somebody at the evening dinner. I think they came from America, and I was talking about the 4th acquisition and how much money he was making. I was like, oh my God, it really does open your eyes. And I think that you've. What is the cost of it? What is the cost of spending that money? If it doesn't work for you, then it's not massive. It's not life-changing money. One of my friends actually joined. He actually got in touch with me and said, Dean, this is all the money I've got. What would you say? And I said, buddy, it's an investment in your future. It's an investment in you. It's an investment in your family. Why wouldn't you do it? Because the upside is exponential. The downside, you know what the downside is? You might not do anything with information, but it's on you. Everything in the course is there for somebody to take action and to buy a business. And if you don't buy a business, it's not on you, it's not on the course, it's on that individual who hasn't taken the action. So I would 100% say that mentorship and taking action and moving forward is so important, and it's on you if you don't. It's nobody else's fault.
And on that note, Dean, we'll see you in part 2.
Cheers.